everyone. So our visitor today, because we're now back on the old way of having visitors each day, once again re-establishing the opportunity to give charity and to help people on a daily basis in a tangible way. So this gentleman lives in Svat. He has a family with 11 children. He had a business, and a couple of years ago his business failed, and since then he's been scrambling around trying to make ends meet. Difficult times, and he's asking for our assistance. We'll once again, Paul, we'll have a Devar Torah now, followed by Kaddish de Rabbanan, and then we'll read Psalm 49 for the end of your Shiva today, and then you'll say Kaddish on your own, and then you'll come take a seat on the low seat over here, and we'll help you to move on to the next stage from the week of Shiva. So today we learn a new Mishnah, Mishnah 10, in the third chapter of Pirkei Avot.
We've built some sound effects now.
Yeah. And it is a teaching by Rabbi Dostai ben Yanai. Dostai is the most unusual name. Don't come across many Dostais around these days. Apparently it's a name from the Greek Dosithios. Dosithios was, there's still a lot of Greek influence around, and he was apparently given a Greek name. He was around about the second or third century of the Common Era. He was an older contemporary of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, of course, who was the redactor of the Mishnah we're speaking about. Apparently he had a terrific sense of humor. This is one of his great features. He would often meet his questions with answers that were permeated with wit. And on one occasion, he was explaining how he had acted with tremendous sagacity to save his life from some hostile people who were trying to attack him. And he said, had they killed Dostai, who would have given my father Yanai another son like me? Well, we don't find it particularly funny, but apparently his students did. By the way, you know the story of the fellow who came before the courts. He was accused of having murdered his parents, and he asked for clemency on the grounds that he was an orphan. That's the definition of chutzpah, I think. At any rate, Rabbi Dostai bar Yanai Mishum Rabbi Meir, and he was actually the main pupil of Rabbi Meir, and he was able to pass on some of the Rabbi Meir, of course, was a student of Rabbi Akiva, one of the main students of Rabbi Akiva, and he was a student of Rabbi Meir, also a student of Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Eliezer. So that whole first generation of Tanaim were his teachers. So an important person in the transition. He says, Kol hashacheach davar echad mishnato. Anybody forgets a single thing from his Torah learning, ma'aleh alav hakatuv ki ilu mitchayev benafsho. The scripture regards him as though he was guilty to pay with his life. This is following on from the last Mishnah, where we had a similar concept of a person who's walking along and he says, how beautiful is this tree? And once again, he's ki'ilu, as if he is chayev mitah. Once again, a very difficult concept to understand, because after all, I mean, who doesn't forget from things from time to time? And as you know, there are lots of jokes on that subject. And how does he know this? Where does scripture tell us this? Because it says, guard yourself, ushmor nafshecha mod, and guard your soul enormously. Pen tishkach et davarim asher ra'u einecha, lest you forget those things which your eyes saw. Where does that come from? The Shema. Okay. Guard yourself very carefully that you don't forget what your eyes have seen. Yachol afilu takva alav mishnaso. Perhaps it's because somebody forgets something because the study has just proved too hard for him, or some other reason that there's a logical reason why he might forget it. And so he now kind of like lightens his teaching over here, and he says, actually, we're not talking about a person who inadvertently forgets something, or forgets something just because by accident or whatever, but it's ufenias. But Talmud Lamar, ufenias suru milvavcha kol yemei chayechem. Make sure that you do not remove it from your heart all the days of your life. A person will not incur mortal guilt Ad sheyashev vayisiram milibo, until he actually actively removes the knowledge from his mind. So he's making a very fine distinction over here about things which simply slip out of our memory and those things which we actively remove in some form or another. And to understand that distinction, we'll have to wait for another day. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer, Ratzah Kodesh Baruch Hu Zak Yisrael, Afichach, Yirba Lehem Tol Mitzvah, Shnei Mar Nech Vetzman Tzidko, Yagdil Tzor V'Yadir.